Everything has changed in the Jim Jones trial, but what you're about to learn will blow your mind. Everyone assumed that the trial was about Jim Jones, but who would have imagined that Cameron would reveal Chrissy's secret that would rock the world? That secret that Chrissy tried to keep hidden from everyone is about to be revealed to the world, and here's the twist. Jim Jones could now use it to his advantage. Yes, you read correctly. This case is about more than just Jim Jones. It's about Chrissy's retaliation. What comes next? This drama isn't limited to the courtroom. If you think this is just another trial, you're completely mistaken. The consequences of this one are unimaginable. The world stops, the courtroom doors swing open, and everyone's attention is on the trial of the year, the one that could change everything. Jim Jones is facing accusations that could destroy his entire legacy. But in the middle of all this chaos, Cameron dropped a bombshell. And believe me, no one saw it coming. But what he revealed about Chrissy Lemin was something no one expected. And it wasn't just about Jim Jones anymore. This trial was all eyes on Jim Jones. And everyone knew that there were legal issues surrounding his empire. His name was dragged through the dirt, and rumors about his involvement in a series of shady dealings. And people already questioned his loyalty to the crew, his financial dealings, and of course, the notorious die-pet image that Cameron and the others had built from the ground up. However, the courtroom that was supposed to be all about him and his criminal accusations abruptly became the scene for a much bigger scandal and drama. Cameron was responsible for exposing secrets that no one knew existed, and a story that no one had dared to tell until now. In the courtroom, something unexpected happened. Instead of concentrating solely on the charges against Jim Jones, the court abruptly changed course when Cameron made the shocking decision to reveal Chrissy Lemin's secret. This was bigger than any of us ever imagined, and I know what you're thinking. What could be worse than the drama between Jim and Cam? Well, that's where the scandal gets wild. Chrissy Lemin, who many know as Jim Jones's longtime girlfriend and reality TV star, had been hiding something for years that was so devastating and secretive that Cameron revealed it all in one explosive moment. Started a series of events that would leave people stunned. When Cameron accused Chrissy of being involved in some dubious business of her own, you could see the audience gasp, and the tension in the courtroom was evident. Chrissy, who had been by Jim's side for so long, was accused of playing both sides of the argument. Cameron didn't just say that she was involved in dubious financial dealings. He also revealed that Chrissy had been working covertly with some very powerful people Jim didn't even know about them. Let's go back a little. For years, Jim Jones, Cameron, and the rest of the Dipset crew were at the forefront of the music scene, setting trends and creating iconic moments. Their bonds and loyalty to each other was something that everyone admired. But underneath the surface, there were cracks, and those cracks were beginning to show. Why did Cameron decide to drop this bombshell in the middle of Jim Jones's trial? Was Cameron just trying to make a point about the messiness within the crew? Or was there a deeper agenda at play? It wasn't just about Chrissy's personal life either. Cameron's revelation of this secret went deeper into criminal networks that were operating behind the scenes, and it could destroy everything. The public's perception of Jim Jones as a figure in the music industry and the devotion he once had from fans could be ruined. Show Cameron, who had always been silent about the internal drama within Dips for years, saw an opportunity during Jim's trial to expose Chrissy's involvement in something much darker that could potentially be linked to Jim's downfall. Everything is up for grabs now, and you have to wonder how Chrissy felt about it all. Was she caught off guard? Was she aware of this plan all along? Or is there more to this story than anyone is willing to acknowledge? But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and consider the significance of Cameron's bombshell. Because this isn't just about a trial anymore, people. It's about betrayal, secrets, and loyalties being tested in the most public way possible. We must ask, how deep was this conspiracy? Who else was involved in these shady dealings? Was Jim Jones just a pawn in a much larger game? We haven't even touched the surface yet. But hold on tight, because we're going to delve deeper into the fallout from Cameron's courtroom confession. And trust me, it's gonna get even more explosive as the courtroom erupted into turmoil. And here's where it gets even more complicated. What does this mean for Jim and Chrissy's relationship? Will this trial lead to an irreversible breakup, not just in their personal lives, but in their entire public persona? If Jim has been dragged into a scandal, was Chrissy the one who dragged him in? Or is she just a victim of circumstances? This is where it gets really messy. After Cameron's shocking revelation, the world watched in disbelief as Chrissy Lampkin, who had been Jim Jones's rock for years, found herself at the center of a storm she never saw coming. However, it wasn't just about the shock value of Cameron's words. It was also about the deeper connections, underground ties, and hidden agendas that were being exposed. Discussing genuine connections and dangerous individuals, the kind of people who could ruin careers with a single phone call. And yet Chrissy was allegedly involved with them. The allegation was straightforward. Chrissy had been working covertly with people from Jim Jones's past who had their own agendas and had no trouble using circumstances to their advantage. These individuals weren't just acquaintances. They were players who operated in the shadows, pulling strings in the world of crime, corruption, and deceit. And somehow Chrissy had found herself entangled with them. What was even more astounding was that Cameron claimed that Jim had been kept in the dark about Chrissy's activities, her involvement with these dubious people, and the secrets she had been keeping from him. However, now that the truth was out, everyone except Jim knew about Chrissy's secret life. But first, let's take a moment to reflect. Why would Chrissy, a woman who had been by Jim's side for years, suddenly get involved with people who could destroy him? Was this all a sham? Or was there a darker motive at work? Let's now discuss the public's response to all of this, because you have to realize that when something like this occurs, the fans, the media, and even those closest to these celebrities begin to question them. The fans who had previously supported Jim and Chrissy, who had watched their every move on reality TV and thought they were the perfect couple, suddenly everything was up for grabs. What do you think the fans were saying when they learned that Chrissy was allegedly involved in this mess? They were angry and felt deceived, and they asked why Jim, the rapper who had always been their guy, the one who remained faithful and kept it real, was being pulled into something much larger than he could have ever imagined. Fans who once loved the couple were shocked and disappointed, wondering if this is what true loyalty looks like. Not to mention the media, which was all over the place, spinning the story in all directions. Some outlets were quick to call Chrissy a gold digger, while others accused her of being a puppet master, pulling Jim strings behind the scenes. Supposed sources close to the situation leaked that many fans were accusing Chrissy of manipulating Jim for her own gain. Some even went so far as to say that she had been using Jim's name and fame to climb higher up the ladder while working against him in the background. The scenes for her personal gain, but the problem was that no one knew what to think. The story seemed to be becoming more complicated by the hour, and with every new detail that emerged. But this is where things took a turn, because Cameron didn't stop at accusing Chrissy. Oh no, he went much deeper. He began revealing some uncomfortable truths about Jim Jones and his past, that were no longer able to be ignored. Cameron claimed that Jim wasn't just ignorant of Chrissy's dealings. He was also blind to his own issues. According to Cameron, Jim had been making poor choices for years, becoming entangled in a daring move, Cameron revealed names that you wouldn't expect to hear in the same sentence as Jim Jones. These were the kinds of names that didn't just represent bad business, but criminal enterprises that operated in the shadows away from the public eye, and Jim's connection to these figures. According to Cameron, Jim had been surrounded by people who had been feeding him lies and leading him down a path of deceit because they were involved in shady deals and associating with people who were using him like a pawn. Path that was sure to cause trouble, that, as it turned out, was right at his doorstep. What's even more shocking is that Cameron didn't just talk about these connections in general terms. Instead, he went into detail about how deeply involved Jim was. He made it clear that Jim had been involved in these activities for years, but he never saw it, whether it was ignorance, denial, or a complete disregard for the consequences. Now let's take a moment to process the fact that Jim was now dealing with the fallout from his own decisions that were connected to the very people Chrissy had been working with covertly. Knowing that the people you trusted the most, and those closest to you, were the ones guiding you into this mess, is a whole other matter. Cameron was implying that Chrissy's betrayal was not just personal, rather it was business related, and Jim was the one who had been blinded by love and caught up in a game he didn't even realize he was playing. The worst part is that the stakes were higher than anyone could have predicted. As the courtroom drama progressed, it became evident that this wasn't just a single person's error. It was about an entire empire collapsing, Jim's career on the line. As the courtroom drama developed, it became evident that the stakes were far more than just a personal scandal. It was not just about Chrissy Lumpkin's covert activities or Jim Jones's public image being damaged. It was about the entire empire they built being torn apart, the fan base in disarray, the industry watching, and the legal ramifications just beginning to surface. The truth is that everyone is avoiding this scandal because it was not just a personal mess, but also a ticking time bomb for their careers for those who believed it would blow over. Attorneys were on high alert as soon as Cameron's words hit the press, claiming that Jim Jones's past connections, the shady figures he'd allegedly been involved with, the money trails, the potential for criminal liability, and the collapse of an entire brand were all beginning to surface. Jim Jones wasn't just a rapper, he was a cultural icon and a leader in the hip-hop world. And now he was in the middle of a legal nightmare that could change everything. When Cameron spilled the beans, the world wasn't just watching a couple's dirty laundry being broadcast, but also the collapse of an entire brand. Law enforcement had already taken a keen interest in Jim's previous associations, particularly after Cameron's shocking revelations. According to those close to the investigation, federal agents were investigating money laundering, racketeering, and possibly even more serious criminal activities. What did this mean for Jim and Chrissy? The most obvious consequence was the potential legal battles. Whether Jim was directly involved in illegal activities, his association with the wrong people, or something else entirely, Jim and Chrissy could face serious legal ramifications, including years in prison if things went awry. His failure to follow through on the warning signs could have been enough to bring him down. But there was more going on here. The industry had already begun to turn against them. Longtime collaborators were pulling away. Labels were erecting barriers, and the streets were ablaze with rumors. The fallout from this trial was just getting started, and let's talk about the fallout from this scandal. We're talking about networks, companies, and brands that had supported Jim and Chrissy for years. and they now had to ask themselves, do we continue to support these people when their whole reputations are on the line? For someone like Jim Jones, who was once untouchable in the hip-hop industry, reality set in when calls from sponsors and partners began to come in. Many were withdrawing from their affiliations, unsure of the day public perception would be affected. In fact, there were rumors that Jim was going to lose several deals, including endorsements and collaborations with some of the biggest names in the industry. The pressure was growing, and everyone around him could feel it. Chrissy, on the other hand, her circumstances weren't much better. The media had already branded her the ultimate villain, after years of, it was a cruel turn of events, where the very people who had once praised her for her strength now saw her as a cunning, cold person who had been playing a game for years. Let's not even get started on Cameron. The moment he opened his mouth, the drama escalated to new heights. Her alleged secret life was now overshadowing her loyalty and support for Jim, and industry insiders were beginning to question her loyalty and true intentions. Finally, the public stopped believing the love story and accused her of manipulating Jim for her own gain, using their relationship as a stepping stone for her own career. Let's take a moment to consider the potential legal repercussions. If Chrissy had been with the wrong crowd, she could be facing charges of conspiracy fraud and even racketeering. These weren't just minor charges. They were serious felonies that could land her behind bars for years. For Jim, the situation was more complicated. Cameron, who was known for his sharp tongue and his no-holds-barred attitude, wasn't backing down. He wasn't just exposing Chrissy, he was tearing down everything Jim had built. Jim was facing indirect charges because of his connections to known criminals. We're talking about being involved in a network of illegal activities that he may not have even been aware of. But the law doesn't always care that ignorance isn't an excuse. What about the public relations nightmare? It was obvious that Jim was no longer the untouchable figure he once was, and his once loyal fans were questioning everything. The rapper, who had once been a hero to many, now had to deal with the fallout from betrayal, manipulation, and secrets. But the real question is, can they recover? Is there any chance that Jim and Chrissy will be able to rebuild their lives, careers, and relationships after everything that has been revealed? Or is this the end of an era? One thing is certain though. This trial, this scandal, and the revelations that followed will go down in history as one of the most shocking stories in hip-hop history. So here we are, and the story isn't finished yet. The courtroom drama is still going on, the legal battles are still going on, and the fans are left to pick up the pieces. Only time will tell, but for the time being, we are left with the aftermath. The truth has been revealed, and there is no turning back. It's the shocking truth about Jim Jones and Chrissy Lynn's collapsing empire. But now is the question, can they survive this, or is this the end of their career as we know it? Will the legal repercussions be more severe than the scandal itself? And most importantly, how far will this fallout really go? This is a story that's still developing, so leave a comment below with your thoughts. Was Cameron's decision to destroy Jim's career a calculated move? Or is there more to this than meets the eye? If you're shocked by these revelations, please remember to like this video and share it with your friends to ensure that. Thanks for watching, and until the next time, keep your eyes peeled, because in the world of celebrity drama, the truth is known by all. Subscribe to stay up to date with all the breaking news as we continue to uncover more explosive stories like this one. Turn on notifications so you never miss a jaw-dropping moment. The real world is usually more bizarre than fiction.